day is gone, it's another day, and the clock is ticking, tick-tock. My life has been renewed, things has been so good. Oh God, I'm happy. 10 million more miles to go. I've got a very long way to go. Oh, but I'm not worried.
Hi, I'm Dr. Beverly Swanson-Powell, and I want to welcome you once again to What's Your Story? As you know, this What's Your Story is a weekly series. We come to you every morning on Fridays at 10 a.m. California time, and all through the East Coast, we're coming online at 2, at 3, and you'll get the times for the entire United States from 10 a.m. to Central Time, which is 12 in the afternoon, to the East Coast, which is 1 in the afternoon. We are also on the platform of Glory Gospel TV. We're so happy to be able to use that platform to bring you this wonderful series about the stories of people that they have gone through to make it through where they are. There's always a journey, and it's so exciting to provide a platform for them to talk about their journey. That encourages us. It gives us hope, and it helps us to move forward continuously in our very own. Because this platform is on Glory Gospel TV, it airs in over 93 countries. So I ask you to make sure that you look to see where it's playing in your country. But I've got great news. It's playing always on my YouTube channel under Dr. Beverly L. Swanson-Powell. Look it up and make sure you subscribe. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll get alerts every time we come on. And follow us on our ministry page here at Facebook, Eagle Wings Apostolic Ministries. We want to hear your story. What is your story? Are you ready to be transparent about your story and your journey? We're ready to hear it. If you're ready to talk about the journey to where you are right now, then contact me. Send me a direct message on YouTube or on Facebook here. Send me a direct message. I want to know what that story is. You can also send me an email at ewaministries@gmail.com. That's ewaministries@gmail.com, or call the office at 916-526-7077. Let me say that again. It's 916-526-7077. Now, with all of that being said, I'm so excited to present the guest that we have for you today. You know, or may not know, this is an arising now of the Melchizedeks. What is that, and why is that important? Jesus was a king and a priest. And so many of Christians don't understand that we have the abilities and capabilities to do and be what Jesus is, was, and always will be. We are ministers because we always have a message to share, about how Jesus saved us. That will always encourage others for salvation. But we're also kings. We are here to be successful in the marketplace so that we are part of the end time plan of God. Oh, to come out of debt, to live a life that is able to support our communities, our homes, our households, the visions and dreams. So I'm excited to bring before you the guest today, a friend, and more than that, and I'll share that soon. His name is Matthew Stewart, and we welcome Matthew Stewart into the studio. Hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to spend some time with you, Beverly.
Well, thank you for that. I'm so excited to bring you before everyone today. And I explained to them about the rising of the Melchizedeks and how we have the opportunity available like never before to not just be ministers of the gospel sharing our lives, but this is the time for us to excel in the marketplace.
Amen.
I'm going to share a little bit about you. So I want to tell you about Matthew Stewart. He's excelled in Greater Sacramento in real estate since the age of 19. You think he knows a little bit about it? He's been established as a broker, a distinguished level with a broker. Now, there is not only time that goes into that, ladies and gentlemen. He also had to test for that and be awarded a license to be able to perform at that level and to have real estate agents under him. He didn't fall from the tree. Both his parents have been in real estate for over 40 years. And his mother, and you know, ladies, I love to mention the achievements of a woman. His mother was the #1 realtor in Placer County in California in the 80s and the early 1990s. Look at that. Talk about before her time. He's a professional. And his focus has always been excellence and professionalism and productive in real estate, but not just real estate, every area of his life. He is and has been consistently a top realtor for sales in South Placer County. Now, this is all in California. He's from California. Granite Bay, Roseville, Rockland, and Loomis. I'm excited to share that because he is my broker. He's not just my friend and confidant. He is my broker. And I am privileged and sponsor. So I am privileged to be a realtor under his tutelage and leadership. He's an amazing entrepreneur. He has been for years. As a matter of fact, that's how I met Matthew. He was an entrepreneurship and he built a gourmet coffee and tea business. And he was one of only 300 business owners out of 50 plus countries. And listen to this, over 1.5 million independent business owners to qualify for a special title. I tell you, what you have before you is someone you definitely want to listen to. He always gives back. He coaches. He was coaching a JV basketball team. I didn't even know he could play basketball. He was coaching in a program from William Jessup University for golf. He's so well-rounded. And he has traveled internationally, and we've had conversations about this because we've gone to the same areas. Your guest today has traveled internationally, recruiting and coaching business leaders on how to grow networks of fellow entrepreneurs throughout Nigeria and South Africa. And I'm going to tell you, his business is expanding as he's moving over more into the realm of bringing people into the company. He's traveled all over. I think he just came from Puerto Rico.
Yeah, earlier in the year, we were in Puerto Rico. Absolutely.
So who knows? He may be coming to your country soon. But lastly, and I believe it's most important, and I know Matthew to know that so does he. Matthew Stewart is happily married, and I
Are
see.
you getting to the good stuff? Are you getting to the good stuff? All that other stuff, let's get to the good
And
stuff.
there she is right behind him. He's happily married to Lexi Stewart, and they have 3 children. And he loves Jesus.
Amen.
He loves Jesus. He loves friends. He loves the outdoors. I've seen him on videos eating. The man loves food.
I do.
He loves to travel. He loves golf and basketball. He just loves playing. He's a little tweaked right now and he's healing. But he's a born again believer, ladies and gentlemen. He's personal. He has a personal and passionate relationship with Jesus Christ. He attends Bridgeway Christian Church in Roseville, California. I'm familiar with that. I have been there. He's a regular guy. He's a regular.
All that intro, Dr. Beverly. Do we have any more time for the show?
We have to have time for the show because after that intro, if we don't, they'll probably be sending me messages. Thank you for coming. We're excited to have you. And we want to hear your story because it sounds like everything just fell into your lap because you're just this perfect, awesome guy.
Yeah, couldn't be farther from the truth, actually. And as we've shared many times in our friendship and so forth, I've had kind of different phases in my life, different segments of, I guess, the grand story. I've got individual stories of really learning and seems like the most learning you get is through experience. You can learn 2 ways, I think. One, you can learn from other people's experiences. Most people don't learn that way because they don't listen enough and believe. They have to kind of go and do it for themselves. I was that way. So I fell more into the second camp where, well, I need to experience it, right? Either pain or pleasure to get this knowledge and change and so on. And so I did get my license at 19, started selling at 20. My parents, as you said, have been brokers now. They don't like me saying this, but 49 years. I'm 46. So I've literally been in the real estate industry my entire life. It's all I know. And because of that, I swore I'd never get into real estate because my mom was the number one, as you said, realtor in the late 80s, early 90s for Placer and El Dorado counties. And this was back in the day when there were no smartphones, no email, no texting, no DocuSign, no digital signature. It was a totally different time, and there were no teams. So she was selling, I think her best year was about 118, 120. I think she gave about 7 or 8 deals to my dad so he could be Masters Club too. And she still did 118 closings that year with no teams, just herself and a part-time assistant. And I look back, I go, how did you do it? Because those were the days when, because you didn't have all the technological advances that we have today, that, she would call the clients and say, hey, they countered your counter. Are you guys still awake? I can swing by tonight and get this deal done. Press hard. There's 3 copies, that's how it was. And then the next call was to me saying, hey, sweetie, we're running a little behind. You're going to need to cook your own dinner and so on. And so I swore I'd never get into real estate. I hated it because I felt like she wasn't around as much as I, as a young kid, you kind of want, so you want all the time and attention or what have you. But I guess I didn't hold out too long, getting licensed at 19 and started selling at 20.
Right.
I wouldn't say that I, hit it off gangbusters or what have you in the first couple of years. I was pretty baby faced, still had some acne, people were going, and how long have you been selling? So on. But I kept plugging away, persevered. Anytime that I thought about quitting or giving up, all the big dogs in real estate, the pros that have been doing it a long time said, man, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, to do what you're doing and know what you know at 20, 21, oh my gosh, if I could go back there, I mean, you're going to have the world by the tail kind of thing. So I just kept plugging away, and then got recruited over to a company called Keller Williams back in 2020, or what is that, 22 years ago now. It was kind of an unheard of company. And I went because they had what's called profit sharing, where if you help grow the company or recruit or what have you, you would get some of the profits that the individual office made. If they were profitable, they'd share some of it with you.
Mm-hmm.
Being that I grew up with my mom only being as good as her last sale on that transactional treadmill, even though she was very successful, it was never ending. We didn't do a lot of extensive vacationing and so on.
Oh.
Just couldn't get away. I mean, we didn't have the technology like we do today with, smartphones and run a business from anywhere. So, so I started attracting agents, ended up being part owner in 3 Keller Williams brokerages, was invited to, buy in and as part owner, which was a blessing. I did that. I built a production team, got it up to about 7 agents. And then in 2004, I was recruiter of the year out of the most profitable office in the world at the time for Keller Williams. And I wasn't what's called a team leader or TL. I was a realtor, but I believed in passive income and residual income. And I wanted to grow it up to where eventually I could exit from production, that transactional treadmill.
Okay. Just like your mom, Matthew, you are ahead of your time.
Well, okay. I mean, there were people before me that had,
not at that age, Matthew, because you were how old?
Well, let's see. I was 24 when I moved over to Keller Williams. Yeah.
They don't think like that. They didn't think like that back then at 24.
Well, I received that. Yeah. So so anyway, but here's the interesting thing. Here's the difference. You and I are both with EXP now, which is the fastest growing real estate company in the history of real estate, and, setting records and so on. My best year of profit sharing at Keller Williams, great company. I have nothing negative to say on KW, good company, was $19,700 of passive residual income for the whole year. Now, most people at KW say, oh my, that's really great. That's great. But it doesn't get me off the transactional treadmill. I still have to go out and, sell homes and so on. Mm-hmm. Fast forward now to EXP. In the first 18 months with the company, my wife and I have built a 6-figure reoccurring residual income. So, it's going from not 20,000 a year at KW, now approaching 20 to 30,000 a month and beyond at EXP. So it's a truly life-changing company, right? And I don't say that to brag about anything. It's more I'm bragging about the opportunity of EXP and what an amazing company it is for those that are willing to roll up their sleeves, be coachable, work hard, and persevere and set a goal for, a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year plan that they can literally change not only their lives, but their family's financial tree, for generations.
Legacy, Matthew.
Exactly.
So here we have people thinking right now, because if I didn't know you, I would be thinking this, okay, yeah, well, your mom and dad were in real estate, so you were raised around it. And so you've seen a lot. They've been coaching you. So, and you did great things, but, not everybody has that background that you had.
Sure.
And so it fell into your lap. But what about me? I have, I'm a regular person. I've not been real estate. I've been knocked down in life, and after being knocked down in life, I mean, what can I do? My self-esteem is low. Where can I go with this?
I love it. Well, yeah, I guess I haven't shared all the times I've been knocked down and so on. So that's great. Thank you for leading me into that. No, it wasn't all just roses and everything and so on. I actually got burned out on real estate after about 13 years in the business. It's kind of all I knew. And so there was a friend of mine that told me about real estate property down in Mexico, down in San Felipe. And so I went down on a tour, dinner, wine, dine, bus tour, travel, touring the various subdivisions down there in San Felipe, which is on the Sea of Cortez in Mexico, Baja California. And I was just smitten. I went, wow, this is amazing. It's a totally different lifestyle. I mean, there's shrimp as big as your fist, and, have a cerveza, take it easy. You got the ocean I mean, it's just totally different than just the grind of working so hard all the time. And I thought, well, who wouldn't want to own a second home on the ocean, right? And have this amazing kind of slow down lifestyle, more about relationships and family and fun and so on. And so I said, you know what? I'm kind of tired of selling onesie, twosie homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Sacramento, what have you. I would rather give presentations of the ability to have a second home, if you will, or a first home even in the San Felipe. So that's what I did. I had a partner and we built a business, and we basically were the main ones in the Sacramento area that were giving presentations and flying people down to San Diego and renting 15-passenger vans and driving them 4 hours, east across the United States, then down from Calexico and Mexicali down another 2 hours into San Felipe. So 4-hour drive, people cooped up in a van that, had attended a dinner presentation that I'd done a week before or 2 weeks before. And then it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday that we would tour them around, and dinners and subdivisions and make sales, right? They say, yeah, I want to buy this lot and this subdivision or that subdivision and so on. Well, everything was going great. Everybody was excited about it. This is in 2004 and 5, really 2005. If you remember, in the Sacramento market, the real estate market was just going gangbusters in 2005. I mean, there were people lining up at subdivisions to just be able to, for 3 days, to be able to pick out their lot at this new subdivision in Sacramento because it had a better view than the other, and crazy times. So people had equity. And so they were taking equity out of their homes and they were buying second homes and boats and Hummers, and it was kind of a crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so we were making sales of people that wanted these second homes down there. Well, what was interesting, we learned that Arnold Palmer was going to be building a golf course or designing a golf course in his first one in all of Mexico. Jack Nicklaus had done one, but Arnold Palmer had never done one. And it was right there in San Felipe. And they were going to build a subdivision around it, and condo hotels and condo towers and all this. And there was no dirt moved yet, right? It was all just dreaming and early stage. Well, once we shared that with our clients, nobody else wanted to buy at the other subdivisions. They all wanted the Arnold Palmer condo hotel with the marina, and can't blame them.
Right.
Anyway, so we made a number of sales in there, but we started to feel that something was going a little bit haywire with this developer. We just got this feeling in our spirit. So we stopped promoting it, stopped taking tours down. We went down, and there was the gentleman was named Gary Stevens. At least that's what we thought his name was. And we vouched, we had attorneys in the town and everything representing us. And they all said, oh yeah, Gary Stevens, great guy. He's, very involved in the community down here and does developing. And we're like, okay, yeah, everybody seems to speak highly of this guy. Well, we went down and visited our attorney, and he goes, hey, have you seen the Mexicali papers? And we're like, no, what's going on? And we didn't have clients with us. It was just my partner and I. And he goes, well, front page of the Mexicali newspaper was that the FBI came into Mexico across the border, went into his office in Mexicali and handcuffed him and trucked him back over into the United States and threw him in prison. And his name actually wasn't Gary Stevens. It was Stephen Warren Francis, that was found guilty on bank fraud and wire fraud in 2 states and was on probation and fled the country.
Wow.
And she married a Mexican gal, had kids and all this stuff. And my partner and I are like, oh my goodness, what in the world is going on? I mean, and it just, everything just kind of disappeared like rats going off a sinking ship. And my partner and I were sued by 3 investors that had never gone down. Actually, they were the only 3 that never went on one of our tours, interestingly enough. And they were suing us for, it was high 6 figures. And at this time, we had not been paid on any of the sales, any of the work. So we were investing all of our money into these plane flights and renting hotel rooms and dinners and vans and all this stuff. And so we were in the hole a lot. We were banking on the come, right? And it never came. And so I think he ended up, I could be wrong on this, but I thought he may have gone and done bankruptcy or something. It was very damaging. And at the same time, the real estate market in Sacramento had hit a peak.
And it started to
June of 2005 was the peak. And then it started crashing, like it started declining down. And then you fast forward 06, 07, and then 08, and then 09. So, I mean, it was like this, let's see, like this. And then it went whammo. I mean,
Matthew, I remember I was a real estate agent during that time. And we were all like, what just happened?
It was brutal. It was brutal. So I had taken my focus off of doing, single family and so on up here in Sacramento. I was all in on Mexico. This is fun. And I was really good at it. I mean, in regards to giving presentations in front of the room and, and taking them down. And it ignited me and energized me again. It gave me the spark back of real estate and working with people and so on. Well, then all of a sudden, this whole thing fell apart. FBI's involved. I mean, it was just an absolute mess. And I was newly married. I just got married, my first marriage, just got married. And she's very risk adversive, I guess, or not into much risk, right? She's very conservative. Here I am. I'm like a young, just not a lot of wisdom, but a lot of gumption, and I can do anything, and a lot of ego and pride. And I'm just going to do this. Like, Mexico is going to be huge. I'm going to build this thing huge. And I literally fell on my face, skinned my knees, it was brutal. Especially starting a new marriage. At the same time, I get a phone call from the athletic director at William Jessup University. Never met the man. His name is Farnham Smith. Wonderful guy. And I remember exactly where I was driving in my car on Interstate 80, get the phone call. And he introduced himself, William Jessup. And we are looking at starting or creating a men's golf program. And I've been looking for a head coach for the last 5-6 months. Haven't found the right fit. You've been referred to me by someone else. And I was curious if you would be open to potentially being our head coach and building the program and so on. Now, I got to share something with the audience. I have my Bible here. I want to show you something. The power of written word. The power of written word. At 18 years old, I'd signed up in the Amway business on my birthday because they wouldn't let me sign up before 18 legally in California or something. So I had to wait for my birthday, signed up in Amway, and they would give us recommended books to read every week and recommended tape. It was a cassette tape. And you'd have your mobile library university in your car driving around. Here I am, this 18-year-old kid, and one of the speakers on the tape was talking about making a list of everything you want to do before you die. Right now, we call it a bucket list and so on. It wasn't really named a bucket list back then.
Right.
Write everything down and be crazy. Don't put any limits on it. If you want to swim the English Channel, swim the English Channel. You want to climb Everest, climb Everest. If you want to, milk a rattlesnake or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so I did this. I'm one thing, I've been very coachable and I'm a doer. I take action because that's where the real blessings come. So this paper, I don't want it to fall apart, but this is my list from 18 years old. I'm 46 now. And you can see checks marks.
Wow.
And it's two-sided. You can't really read it probably that well.
Wow.
But anyway, there's things on here like bungee jumping, skydiving, deep sea diving, hunter's license and go hunting, get my broker's license, talk on stage in front of thousands, have children, at least one boy and one girl, go to the White House, climb the Half Dome, coach men's golf in college. Now, this is a running working list. I just want to show if they could see it. I've crossed it out. I've crossed it out because I put coach boys basketball in college, and then I changed it to where it was either basketball or golf at a 4-year university. Okay. 18 years old. I wrote this down, coach. And then I put later men's golf because that's what I did. And I wrote a check mark by it. But at 18, I put that down that I wanted to coach at a 4-year university. Now, in our town of Roseville, there was no 4-year universities. We had Sac State or UC Davis.
Right.
And I never thought that in my, late 20s, early 30s that I wasn't even thinking about coaching golf at that time, it would be later when my finances were set and I had more time and, maybe in my 50s or something like that.
Retiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I can get back and do more, all this stuff. Well, then I get this call. That's why I remember this call when it happened and where I was driving, because I immediately, the Spirit went right to this list that I wrote down. And I went, oh my gosh, God, you're amazing. Like, I didn't even pursue it. They're calling me. And so I ended up taking the job, created the men's golf program from scratch. They didn't have one. I didn't know what I was getting into. I was so naive. It was so much doggone work. I got to tell you, I had no clue what I was getting into. Right? A 4-year, you got to recruit during the summer. You got your fall season. They got the spring season. So it's basically a year-round gig. And I took it on and I only paid like $5,000. That was it for all this work. And here I am struggling financially. Again, this is one of those where it wasn't very wise. It wasn't a wise decision of me, right? Because I'm newly married. I have a risk-adverse wife. I've gone all in on Mexico like a crazy man. It's crashed and burned. I mean, FBI involved. I mean, it's just a
mess.
Terrible. And then now I decide to take on this, and she wanted to support me and she knew that that was a passion. So loving, she supported me. But I think if I gave her the opportunity to be really speak truthfully without, any guilt or repercussions or anything, or whatever, she probably would have said, I don't think that's the wisest thing to do right now with where we are in our new marriage and struggling financially. And, and I was kind of a hot mess financially because I went all in with Mexico.
Right.
And it didn't return. It actually went the opposite. And so now I'm carrying a ton of debt. I think I had about $80,000 in debt. Right. So I was praying to be broke, because broke is zero, right? Like broke is zero. Yeah. I don't have any money, but I'm not in debt. Right. I was worse than broke. I mean, it was bad. Right? Some people say I wasn't even poor. I couldn't even afford the other OR. I was just po, So anyway, that's kind of where I was, and we were struggling in our marriage right from the beginning. Started doing counseling. I'm paying for counseling, and I didn't have the money. I'm putting it on credit card because I just I need to get my marriage right, and then got to put these building blocks. Fast forward a bit. I came back into real estate here because Mexico was just a disaster. Yes. And I started getting back into selling homes. Well, the market is literally free falling, right? Like off a cliff. And so it's either REOs, which are real estate owned, or bank owned properties. And Sacramento was one of the top 4 markets in the whole country of just being destroyed by bank owned foreclosures and so on. I remember driving through subdivisions, and there would be brown lawns on almost every lawn, and there'd be a real estate sign. For every 10 homes, you'd have 3 or 4 signs, sometimes 5 or 6. It was crazy.
It was bad.
It was like a war zone. It was terrible, and nobody had equity.
So what he was saying, ladies and gentlemen, for some of you that don't live in the United States, people were losing the homes that they had purchased because they just could no longer pay them because many factors involved. So the banks took the properties back. They took the properties back and they carry the notes on the property. So what Matthew did, instead of knocking on doors to see if people wanted to sell their homes, because there were more people losing their homes than selling their homes, he went to the bank and started marketing the properties that they had returned back to them. And that's what he means by REOs. So what happened?
Yeah, so I actually didn't do REOs because I didn't have the money to be able to take on REO listings. Because
no, not even that?
I was so broke because with REOs, they would give you like 10 homes in your area to go list and market and sell for the bank. But you had to put the utilities in your name. You had to get the lawn maintenance and, hire somebody to go clean up the lawn and the property and clean it out.
Nothing.
I didn't have the money to be able to do any of that. So I couldn't take on any REO listings. So the only thing that was really left for me was what's called short sales. And short sales, for those of you that don't know, when you buy a home in America, most people don't pay cash. I know there's some countries they don't get financing. You got to pay cash. But in America, you go to the bank and say, would you loan me money. I'll put in a little bit of my money and you put in the rest. And then I'll gradually over time, I'll shrink down what I owed because I'm going to, pay it to you and I'll have the ownership of the property. Well, they would buy the home for $500,000 and then all of a sudden the market crashed and now that home's worth $300,000 and they owe $500,000 and the bank expects them to pay $500,000 for the house that's only worth $300,000 now. And so people are going, oh my gosh, why am I paying $500,000 when somebody just bought the house across the street, the same model, same house as mine for $300,000. So the banks had to say, okay, we will actually take a lesser offer than what you owe us of $500. We may look at it and take an offer. If you get a buyer that'll pay $350 for your house, we may forgive your debt and take that $350,000 and you can get out of owing the rest of the money. That was what a short sale. You're selling it short of what you owe.
Yeah.
So anyway, there were tons of people. Almost everybody was upside down, meaning they owed more than what it was worth. And so they were looking at selling their home. So that's what I did. I took on these listings to help people sell their homes. And they were typically 3 month on the short end to 6 month to 9 months of negotiating with the banks. And the banks playing hardball and having us jump through hoops and do all these different things. And then you'd feel like you're getting to the end of the process and they'd say, oh, nope, sorry, you too much time's gone by. You have to start over now. And we're like, oh my God. Meanwhile, we're not making any money until we actually get a closed escrow because we get paid at the end on performance.
Yes.
So here I am in major debt, struggling marriage, stressed out of my gourd. I mean, it was just, I was working 10 times as hard to make half the money. Right. So fast forward a little bit. My wife ends up leaving me in 2010. And she just didn't feel like it was going to get any better, no matter how much, counseling that we would do individually as a couple and so on. I will tell you that whole period was a real blessing for me because I was pretty immature when I first got married. She had been married before, so I would say she was much more mature than I was relationally in regards to a marriage relationship. I was pretty naive. I think I actually probably sold her on me on the marriage, which is probably not what you want to do, right? You want that person to willingly, choose themselves. And so anyway, so she left and that was in 2010. At the same time, I had been trained by a national trainer about charging a fee for short selling, what's called a processing fee, because we have to now get into all the real estate paperwork, all the lending paperwork, all the tax returns for the clients, all their financials. Like the files were like this thick. I kid you not. I mean, they were ridiculous. Something that realtors had never done before. We never got into negotiating loans for client. That was not, we do homes. We don't do loans.
Yes.
But that's what it was in the market. And so anyway, here I am spending so many hours and 6 months before you ever get paid that I hired on stay-at-home mom or whatever to go and do the processing of all the paperwork, make sure all the boxes are checked and I's dotted, T's crossed, so that we could send in a completed package so that it would hopefully go faster through the bank's process. Well, for the longest time, the Department of Real Estate never took a clear stance that processing, was a licensed activity. You needed to have a license, a real estate license. Up until then, they were fairly silent. It was a gray area. They never took a stance. I think it was February of 2010, the same year that my wife left, that they came out and said, no, you do have to have a real estate license to process short sales, right? Well, I had already closed dozens of short sales and charged a processing fee for this additional work and additional effort.
So while everyone has been functioning in this position, they finally, in 2010, made a decision.
Yeah.
That now the processors have to have a real estate license. But in the meantime, you and others have been moving forward in your business without an answer because they didn't have one.
Well, it's not, if you ask them, they will say they always had an answer and it was always a license activity, but they never took a clear stance and made it clear until they were kind of pressed to the wall, so to speak.
Okay.
It was like the wild west, Beverly, during that time.
Yes.
There were people doing all sorts of squirrely stuff. There was a lot of people doing illegal stuff. I mean, it was just a crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the DRE, to their credit, couldn't keep up with all of the creativity of all the people across the state of California and realtors and what they're doing and all this stuff. So they finally had to come out, I think it was February 2010, with a white paper that's saying, no, it's always been a license activity, blah, 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 which is not entirely true. In my opinion, I'll say. It was gray at best. So anyway.
They took it from gray, put it on white paper, and took a stance.
Then it was black and white. Yeah, which was good because then we knew. Well, I didn't know this, but in 2009, I was being investigated by the Department of Real Estate because of these short sale processing fees, and I was being trained by a national trainer that had taught this over all 50 states. And I even went down to Vegas for a huge conference of thousands of realtors being trained this. And I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. I mean, we're working 10 times as hard, literally, and making half the money. I mean, so anyway, not to go too deep in the details because people aren't, as real estate versed as you and I are. When they took that stance, everything that I had done prior, and all my clients were super thrilled that I got their short sales completed. I actually was very good at negotiating short sales. And the majority of realtors in the market at that time were not. And it was only because I had a coach that trained me to do them really well from the banking side. He used to work for the bank.
Makes a big difference.
Non-performing loans and debt and collect the debt back for the banks. And he was a barracuda. He was just amazing at his job, but he burned out. So he went on the other side and started teaching realtors how to actually negotiate with the banks and what they're looking at. So it's like we were playing with an ace up our sleeve, right? If we're playing poker or something. So anyway, fast forward a bit, I found out they'd investigated me in 2009. My wife leaves in 2010. And then in 2000, and I still kept doing this, closing real estate deals because they never clearly told me what I was doing wrong.
Yes.
I even called them on 2 occasions saying, hey, Department of Real Estate, I understand you're investigating me. I don't fully understand what it is or why. Can we go over what it is? And I'm totally willing to make changes. So that we're compliant and all this stuff, right? He goes, sir, we're not here for you, the Department of Real Estate. We're here to protect the consumer. I said, I get that. That's why I'm calling you, because we both are working for the consumer. Let's protect the consumer. If you would just tell me what I'm doing wrong, I'll make changes and then we're good. And they said, no, we suggest we can't talk to you. You need to hire legal counsel. You should talk to your legal counsel. I said, are you serious? I'm actually calling you and we can make changes right now and be done with it. And they said, no. And so they just kept pursuing. And anyway, so fast forward in 2012, it came out that they actually pursued me criminally. It didn't even go into the realm of real estate, but because I was taking more than $1,000 of processing fee, which would be over $1,000, i.e. grand theft. Okay. And I won't go into the details on why they split hairs and figured out that was the deal, but grand theft is a felony.
Felony. Yes.
Yeah. And so they pursued me in criminal courts. It was the state of California versus Matthew Stewart. Now I am like blown away. I'm going, are you kidding me? I have a stellar reputation. I'm the head golf coach at a 4-year Christian university. I've been in real estate since I was 19 years old. I've never, as far as I know, had any complaint in real estate. I've closed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of transactions successfully, get referred business all the time from past clients that, like me, love me, enjoy me, etc. I'm going, and I even called DRE willing to make changes, and they took it this far. So what I found out from my attorneys, he said, Matt, you got to understand the climate that we're in right now. You literally are the number 2 person in the entire state of California that's on their radar. You are their example. They are going to go after you. They want blood. They are not going to back down because they need a story to send
Yes.
ripple effect through the industry, and you got a great reputation in the industry. So that's what happened, and it ended up being front page of the local newspaper where I had, created the Outrageous program and built donated $40,000 to the visual and performing arts programs for the kids in the schools in Rockland. And the very same reporter that had interviewed me throughout the years for my real estate expertise to get quotes to put in his real estate stories, he was the one that put the article in the Sacramento Business Journal and the Placer Herald, and never even called me first to find out my side of the story or anything. I had to hear about it from clients and friends going, "Hey, is this you in the paper?" And I mean, my world just like the Lord
Shattered.
Literally ripped the rug out from underneath me. My wife leaves. I'm broke. I'm not even broke. I'm praying for broke. I'm poor. I'm po. And now my reputation, right, is gone. I ended up stepping down from William Jessup after 5 years of being the head golf coach and starting that program in 2012. And I surrendered my real estate license as part of the negotiation. I said, okay. And so no longer am I a realtor. And it's all I've done since 19 years old. And so, and on top of that, try to go get a job when your reputation is for fraud. And I'm like, fraud? I've never stolen from anybody. Like it's so far removed. It was so shocking to me, right? I'm just like, this is surreal. Is this really happening? And, but I look back now, Beverly, and I know God was in it the whole time. He literally was guiding me, directing me, stripping things away on purpose. He stripped away everything but my health. And literally everything but my health. And I went into network marketing, because network marketing, you don't have to give a resume. If you're willing to sign up and get to work, hey, you're in, baby. So I didn't drink coffee, but my buddy said, hey, it's not about you and how much coffee you can drink. It's what the world drinks, and they drink it every morning, and there's no negative connotation, and they drink it till they die. And I said, that's true. And he goes, it's the best residual product in the world. It's amazing. I went, that's so true. So I said, that's great. I'm going to do this company called Organo Gold. Great company. And so that's how you and I met.
That's how we met. What year was that?
I don't even remember. Well, let's see. So 2012, I got started. And I got to tell you this funny story. I just thought of this. This is a funny story. Okay. So in 2012, I have my hearing on the people of California versus Matthew Stewart. The night before my hearing the next morning, I go to a networking meeting in Rockland, and I am going to go and sample coffee, because they came in individual little single cup samples.
Right. And it was delicious, by the way.
Yeah, I gave you some. So we would sample it and say, hey, do you drink coffee or tea at least occasionally, or what have you, right? Oh, yes, I do. Great. How do you take it? I still remember it, by the way. How do you take it? Cream or sugar, right? And we'd give out 2 samples, get their name and number. I'll follow up with you and see what, how you liked it. Well, so I went to this high-level supervisors networking meetings, help them get this position of in Rockland. And I'm working the room, networking, because my real estate license is going away here very soon. I just feel it. And I meet a couple, and the husband is a Placer County judge, like Supreme Court judge or high up judge.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, hey, Matt, and he knew me, and he goes, hey, Matthew, how you doing? I knew his wife. And I go, I'm doing great. They go, how's real estate? I go, oh, it's going great. The market, blah, 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 whatever you say is, and I said, I tell you what, though, I've got another business that I've launched. I'm really excited about it. In addition to my real estate, let me ask you something. Do you drink coffee or tea on at least occasion? How do you take it? Black or cream and sugar? So I sampled the judge two cups of coffee. And I said, great, I'll follow up with you in the next couple of days to see how you like it. And okay, great, man. That sounds great. Glad everything's going good with real estate. Talk to you later. That was it. I didn't think anything else of it. The next morning, I get up for my trial, and I go to the courthouse, and I go into courthouse number 4, or no, I was with a different judge, and it got assigned to a different judge that did it on the time that my attorney could do. And so we walk into that courtroom number 8, And I'm sitting in there and I went, oh my goodness.
And not the same judge.
The judge that I just sampled coffee on and said real estate was going great is the very judge that's going to be presiding over my case. And so all rise to the honorable judge. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I just laughed. I go, God, I don't know what you're doing, but you got a sense of humor. This is hilarious. Now, he's a born again believer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I fast forward a bit, we're getting into the sentencing because I said, okay, guilty or whatever, and part of it was jail time. Believe it or not. I'm like, jail? Are you kidding me? I never went behind bars, just so you know.
Thank God.
90 days jail time. They were all impacted, so they drop it down, cut it in half when all the jail's full. So it was 45 days. Normally it would be house arrest with one of those ankle bracelets, which I can't believe I'm even saying this because it was crazy. I'm like, this is insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the probation gal and I said, hey, I'm building a network marketing business. I can't have an ankle bracelet because they're not going to ever trust me. Like, who's going to do business with some convict, or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, is there anything else I can do? And they said, well, you could walk dogs or, and so on at the SPCA. And I said, oh, I love animals. I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get there and she goes, oh, and by the way, that's usually only for, drunk driving, DUIs, but I'll make an exception. I prayed. I'm like, Lord, please soften her heart. Please let her do it. And she goes, you know what? I never do this, but yeah, I guess that'd be all right for you. I'm like, wow.
Look at God.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I got to go and I never got to walk dogs. Couldn't even touch the animals. I get there. They're like, oh no, you cannot touch the animal. You'll be out of the program if you touch the animal. All you get to do is clean all of the poop and the urine from their stalls and their bedding and all that. That's what you do for the next 45 days. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's pretty bottom of the bottom, man.
That is.
Out urine on the concrete and the bedding with all the poop stain and throw up and oh my gosh. So, and I was, anyway, so then during the sentencing, the judge, one of the other things was community service, like 180 hours or something. And I said, well, Judge, I actually am leading a missions trip of college and high school senior golfers over to Ireland for 3 weeks to teach youth golf and to tell them about Christ and so on and help them with their golf game for 3 weeks. And I'm the leader. I'm the head guy. I said, now I'm getting this wobbler felony. Can I even leave the country? And he goes, well, normally no, but I don't think you're much of a flight risk. I know you personally, and let's ask the prosecution if they're okay with that. And I'm like, Lord, please, let's be okay. And I said, could that count towards my community service? Right. And he asked the prosecution thought about it. There's like this long pause. Right. And she goes, and I just feel like the Lord moved her heart. And she's like, yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't think he'll be a flight risk and so on and so forth. So I got to do my youth missions trip, lead it still, right? And have 180 hours of community service completed by doing that. Okay. Didn't have to go and do the ankle bracelet house arrest. Never did jail time. I was in the SPCA.
Look at God.
They gave me a letter of recommendation when I left the SPCA. I was the only one to ever get one. Probably because I was the only one to ask. Being in sales and reading the Bible, you receive not because you ask not. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to go and get everything expunged and go through the legal process to eliminate, one of the things of having a felony that's a wobbler, it goes down to a misdemeanor, and then you can have that expunged where it's wiped clean from your record because you've paid your time and done your stuff, right? So I went to the SPCA, the head gal, and I said, hey, could I have some sort of letter so that I can show the judge that, I've really taken this serious. I'm sorry for whatever, I've done and so forth. And I want to get this behind me and move forward. And she goes, well, we've never done this before. And so they actually did on their letterhead and gave me one. So I just see God throughout the whole thing. And I literally ended up being the leader of the when I was there at the SPCA, all the other like drunk drivers that were putting their time in, I basically got to be the supervisor, kind of like, Potiphar and all this stuff, right? I'm like directing them, hey, you'll do laundry today, and hey, how about the back outside kennels and all this stuff. So he was growing leadership in me at that time, right, through all this pain and loss and anguish. And then so then I started growing my organo gold business, and then it took me over into Nigeria, across America. Then I helped open up Nigeria, and that was that would be a whole nother podcast. Like, incredible stories of just I had no money. I literally borrowed $800 to go and be there for 6 weeks. Okay. $800 in Nigeria, even though money goes further in Nigeria, it doesn't go $800 for
not for 6 weeks.
Food and hotel, and I'm doing plane flights from this city to that city within Nigeria. It's about the size of Texas, you know. And how are we doing on time? I got an amazing story there of God's provision if we have time.
No, these are the things that the Spirit of God wants them to know.
Okay, so here I am, totally building my business on 100% faith. My big money in organo gold hadn't come in yet, even though I'd reached some levels of recognition nationally and so on. But really, I was going to build large in Nigeria, and I did have over 1,000 Nigerians join my organization. But the challenge was they were so tight financially at that time. It was a depression in their economy. It was an election year. Nobody was spending money. And it kept getting delayed. They kept delaying the election because of people getting murdered and killed. And like, it was just really a lot of unrest. And this was the time when Boko Haram, if you remember them, kidnapped 200 girls, right? Yes. I was in Nigeria at this exact time that I was looking to go to Nigeria, and the whole thing of bring our girls back and all this stuff, right? And I don't know if they found them alive or not. I can't remember. But anyway, my dad, who's my best friend next to Jesus, just amazing. I've never heard him, other than one other time in my life when I had a really severe injury, get so somber and talk to me as son, son, and just like, because we were best friends. He'd call me Stu or Matthew or Stewie or whatever. And he started to like well up on the phone and cry. And he goes, I am so worried in my spirit for you, because there were kidnappings and ransoms. And here I am, this white guy, and I stick out like a sore thumb in Nigeria. I'll just say,
a little bit.
There's, and they all kind of like, well, what's he doing here, or whatever. And so he was really worried that I was going to be kidnapped and ransomed or whatever. And I'm going there with no money. So I went and I said, Lord, should I go on this trip? My dad, honor your father and mother. My dad's telling me not to go. Mm-hmm. And he goes, son, and I think you and I talked at this time, Beverly, about warring angels. Was that you? About pray for warring angels to surround you? Mm-hmm. And we prayed together. And I did. And I felt very confident and released by the Lord to go to Nigeria. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, I love you and I want to honor you and respect you, but I love my father more than you. And my Father in heaven has told me that it's okay and he's going to protect me. And I pray that you would also, be okay with that and just pray for me for protection. And so he did. He released me to go. Here I go, and I don't have a place to stay. I literally land in Nigeria and I don't have a place to stay because I don't have the funds to do hotels every night.
Right.
Well, before I had left on my previous trip, a guy had introduced me on the phone to a guy named Pastor Doton. Amazing man. And we hit it off on the phone. He goes, well, when are you coming back? I want to have you come over to my church and so on. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, it'll be 30 days. So I get back and he's calling me. He goes, hey, have you landed yet? I go, well, not yet. He goes, do you have a place to stay when you get here? And the Lord said, do not tell him that you don't have a place to stay, because I want it to be 100% me that provides, and you to see how I work. You have to tell him you have a place to stay, because he wanted me to stay at his house. Mm-hmm. He goes, stay with me. I go, no, I have a place to stay. Well, where are you staying? He wouldn't let it go. He's like a dog on a bone, right? And I go, well, I'm at the hotel, and and then I'll probably stay with some team members as I travel around. And he goes, I want you to stay with me. What do I got to do? Like, what do I got to do to have you stay with me? And I go, really? I mean, I don't want to put you out. He goes, no, you would be a blessing in my household if you stayed with me. And I go, okay. In my spirit, I'm like, all right, Lord, I mean, what do I do now? I mean, He goes, it's okay. You can tell him. You go, all right, well, yeah, I would love to stay at your place. I'm in the hotel tonight. Maybe tomorrow I would be honored. And he goes, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'll tell my wife. And he housed me for a month. Okay. And it was at this, and he fed me, and he's not, made of money.
Right.
And I eat a lot. I like food.
I know.
And so it happened to be that the same exact time that I landed, that he was, his church was doing 30 days of glory and praise. Worship.
Wow.
Okay. And he said, I want you to be at my church every morning with me. And we got up at 4:30 in the morning, and I do a walk or a jog in the dark in Nigeria. Okay. And then we'd come back and we'd be at the church at like 6 a.m., 6:30 in the morning. And here I am going, I got to make money. Like, I got to go meet with people, get them to join my business, help them grow, and so on. I can't be in a church all day, and I don't have money. And here's the thing about Nigeria. They're amazing people. Amazing people. In church, they give they give an offering. They give gifts. They give like 3 different times each day. And he's doing 30 days of worship and prayer. And I got $800 total to last me 6 weeks there. I'm going, Lord, what do I do? And here's the thing. He sits me in the front row right next to him. I'm in the seat of honor.
Wow.
Right next to him, right? He's on the aisle at the front corner, and I'm right next to him. They all call me Pastor Matthew. And I'm like, well, I never referred to myself as Pastor Matthew. I'm like, where'd they get that? Well, pastor's like, oh, this is Pastor Matthew from USA. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it stretched my faith so much. And he's like, hey, Matthew, come up and share a word for the church. I'm like, oh my goodness, are you serious? So I come up and, I fumbled and bubbled and so on. I mean, the Lord is just stretching me and growing me. And here I am. They go, and in Nigeria, they don't pass the basket, row to row. You get up out of your seat and you dance in a row, in a line up in front of the church, and you put it in the glory basket there, right?
Yes.
And everybody sees whether you give or not. Right? And I'm going, oh my gosh. I'm his, I'm Pastor Matthew. Do I not give? I mean, it was like really wrestling my faith. And God's like, do you trust me?
Yes.
Do you trust me? Where does your money come from? And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, Lord. So I go up. So I don't know that there's 3 times. I do the first one. I give like 200 naira, which, isn't like a huge amount of money, but when you only have a little and you're budgeting for
a lot of money, yes.
Then later in the service, he's like, okay, we're going to give the gifts now. And then they all get up in their line and they're giving. And I'm like, I already gave. Like, that was actually a stretch for me. Like 200 for the first day was a lot. I'm like, Lord, do you trust me? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I get up and I give more. And then the third time, and this was every day. And then there was a time that he brought me in. There was these 2 businesswomen, and they said, hey, we want you, Pastor Doton, to come and pray over our business, rub oil on the door frames and lay hands on. They were fabric, seamstress, and made clothes and everything. And every day, pastor brought in a new guest, a new speaker, a new pastor, apostle, what have you. And at the end of church, I would be in his office with the guest, and it would just be an individual powwow with these great men and women of God. Right. And here I am, Pastor Matthew. And I'm like, I don't know if I belong here, like to this level, And what was interesting that day, he goes, Matthew, we're going to go and anoint these ladies' business. And I'm going, geez, I have got to go build my business, And I'm going, okay, I'll go. And he goes, oh yeah, come on. He's very like forceful, loving guy. Come on. And so we go and I'm, praying on stuff. And when I'm getting in the car, they come up and shake my hand, the 2 ladies, and they put $100, American dollars, in my hand.
Wow.
To thank me for not withholding my blessing and coming and blessing their business and giving back for our time and energy. And right, like the word says, bless those that, are in the ministry and so on. Right.
Yes.
And I never expected anything. I was like, oh my gosh, that's $100. That's thousands and thousands and thousands of naira.
Yes.
So put in the dish. I've gotten it back now. He's restored me.
Yes.
Just one. I mean, I have so many stories about my Nigeria coffee growing experience, not coffee growing, but growing my business, and how God just completely stretched me.
And then he started turning things around.
Yes. He, so then I come back, I get everything expunged. I start working on getting my license back. The Department of Real Estate gave me a restricted license, which is customary. They don't ever give one typically unrestricted. They keep it restricted for the first 2 years so that if you keep your nose clean, or if you don't keep your nose clean, so to speak, they can pull it at any time. You don't have to have a trial or hearing or anything.
Yes.
So I wasn't worried. There wasn't anything I, was going to do or really did anything in the past that was bad. But anyway, so for 2 years, and then I found out that I could get my broker's license. So I went and got my broker's license unrestricted. They gave it to me unrestricted.
Wow.
Yep. Didn't have to do restricted. They said, nope, you're good. You're expunged. You've done everything. I sent them 23 letters of recommendation.
He restored you, Matthew.
And then some, right? Like Job, and even more bounty, right? So then I learned about EXP, and I started attracting agents and growing my organization. Now, like I told you, we've got a 6-figure reoccurring residual income in addition to my commission sales. And my wife has an amazing job, and she's been, elevated and promoted and just doing phenomenal. We went from $100,000 in debt, okay, as a brand new couple married. She was a single mom with 3 kids, teenagers. I married into single mom with 3 teenagers on food stamps.
Wow.
And she didn't have a job.
Wow.
And here I am. I'm renting a room from a really good friend of mine, an older gentleman, that the Lord put it on his heart to offer me a room for free because I couldn't pay for it. I was so broke. And I said, Chuck, I can't pay you for your room. And he goes, no, I know. The Lord told me it's okay. You can live here for free. He's a widower, and he wanted company and just, fellowship. And so I was building my organo gold business in this room for free. And it got to a point where I couldn't even pay my mortgages. I had 2 rental properties that I was holding on to. If I could keep the renters in there, they basically covered the mortgage payment, and I could hold on and just keep it going until I could, recover. And that's how we got married. I brought $80,000 of debt. She brought $30,000 of back taxes from her previous marriage and husband. And that's how we started our marriage. We got started in Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, and we went all in, baby. I mean, we had no business being in a restaurant unless we were washing dishes. Right? And so we paid off $100,000 in 12 months.
Wow.
We went to work. We cut way back. We tried to earn. We sold stuff. I was selling real estate. Here's an amazing story. Before then, I was selling cars at Future Ford in the auto mall here. Worst job of my life. Future Ford, great people. I just hated the job. But anyway, it was a blessing because it humbled me like crazy. Here I am selling homes, and now, nobody likes a car salesman kind of thing, and I'm like, wow, this is so different. So 5 months into selling cars, they say I can't sell cars anymore because my license, my salesperson's license was rejected because of what had happened with my real estate. And so now I can't even sell cars. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, you're just stripping away everything. So then I got to be a service writer and write service for those that, their car's breaking down or whatever. And so I'm doing that. And at the same time, my brother is working 2 dealerships down in the auto mall at Chevy. And I'm leaving Thursday night for a prayer meeting and checking out. And while I'm checking out, I see an ambulance drive in the one-way loop because it's a big auto mall with a big loop. And I go, oh, a customer must have had a heart attack, which happened from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even think it was my brother. I left. I went to the prayer meeting, and my phone starts blowing up, and we're in worship and prayer and so on. And it's my mom calling. I reject. It's calling, reject. And then calls the 3rd time. I'm like, wow, what's going on? I'm in a prayer meeting, and it's really good. I'm connected with the Lord. She goes, your brother, something's happened to him. He's in the hospital and so on. It's really serious. And I go, oh my gosh. And I said, well, if he's in the hospital, there's nothing I can do. and he's unconscious. I need to stay here and I need to tell people about it, and we're going to pray.
Right. Yes.
And we're going to pray and pray. And so I didn't see him that night. I went later I went late that night after the meeting, and my brother had a brain aneurysm and a stroke. They did a CT scan. Half of his brain was completely black, filled with blood. The doctor said if he ever came back, he would be a vegetable. And the machines are keeping him alive right now. And he was gone at 36. My parents pulled the plug the next day. They said, if God wants to have him either way, either live or with him, we're going to put it in God's hands. We're going to pull the plug. And he died like an hour or two later. And I was so growing in my walk with the Lord that I went in and privately in there he was still on the bed, dead as a corpse, laying my hand on him, praying for him to be resurrected and come back to life, and believed and just fervently prayed. Didn't happen. Doesn't mean I'm not connected to the Lord. It's ultimately the Lord's plan. And I think Danny's happier with the Lord now. But because of that, my wife had broken up with me prior and was dating another guy. And because I couldn't make up my mind if she was the one. I was waiting for God to tell me for sure she was the one.
I remember that time.
Woo! Yeah, it was brutal, right? I was a mess. Okay.
You're telling me about a redhead that you can't get off of your mind. She's right in my church in front of me. I remember.
I met her in church. Yeah.
Yes.
Never knew her. I'm like, oh, pretty red hair. I wonder how it is in the front. And it was great in the front, right? So anyway, fast forward, and now I'm pursuing her. And literally, my brother dies on a Saturday, Super Bowl Sunday, is Sunday. I am going to a new church because the guy that she's dating is at the same church we go to, and there's no way I could see them holding hands and lovey-dovey. It would tear me up. So I'm going to go to a new church, and I could either go one of two ways. I could go left or right. If I went left, I'd go by the subdivision that she lives back in there, or I go right and just, go to the church. The church started at 9:30. Her church started at 9. It was 8:55. She's never late. She leaves at 8:40 for church, and she didn't have the kids. So God's like, you can go left, but don't be disappointed if you don't see her. I know you want to go left to see her, but she's, it's not 8:55. I said, that's okay. I won't be disappointed. So I go literally as I'm driving by her main road that comes out onto the other main road from her subdivision. Exactly when I'm passing, she is making a right turn onto the main road by me like this. The exact timing. Unbelievable. I went, oh my gosh, Lord. I flip a U-turn. I'm driving next to her. We go to a parking lot. She's blown away. She gives me the biggest hug because she'd learned my brother died. I couldn't hug her back. I'm literally bawling and tears and snot and everything. And, and I just have my arms down to my side, and I could not hug someone that was no longer mine. She's with another guy.
Wow.
They had plans to go to Super Bowl together and church together and to have dinner the night before. She got back from women's retreat. She texted him. He never responded in the text. And they were together like almost every day hanging out at this point. They've been dating for a little while now. And so she thought, that was weird. I guess I'll see him at church. Never responded before church. And then I said, hey, what are you doing for Super Bowl? And she goes, well, I was supposed to hang out with this guy, Tim, and I haven't heard from him. I don't know what's going on. And it was already like 9:15, 9:20 at this time. I go, well, you're late already. Why don't you and I hang out? What are you doing for Super Bowl? So she ended up spending Super Bowl with me up at my parents', which is weird. My parents were like, what's the gal that broke your heart? Anyway, my point in the story is she got let go from her job from another realtor and had that week off, did not have the kids that week. Future Ford said, hey, you can't come back to work, because I was working, and they're like, you need to grieve. Like you need a week off. Your brother just died. Mm-hmm. So the Lord aligned that we had a week off entirely, no kids, no jobs, her and I, and we spent so much time together, and we got back together. We got married. I proposed 3 weeks later down in Lovers Point, Monterey, and we were married. That was February 28th. We were married in June, and we've been married 6 years since. She's just the love of my life. Such a blessing. She's taught me what love is. She's modeled love for me. I mean, like, it's just amazing. I even told you sometimes, like, I'm actually scared. I think she loves me more than I feel that I'm able to show her love. Like I've just never been loved like this. It's amazing. And it's never wavered. She's so true. It's just amazing. Right. So God restored me with a marriage. Remember on my list that I showed you to be a dad,
Yes.
one boy and one girl. In my first marriage, we never had kids. And here I got married, second marriage at 40. And I'm like, ooh, and she was 41. I'm like, I don't think we want to have babies at this age, kind of where we are in life. So I get 3 teenagers, boy, girl, boy, right? So I'm remarried. I have 3 kids, not 2. I now am back in real estate. I'm not a real estate license. I'm a broker. And now I'm building an organization and have, hundreds of agents in my organization across, 19 or 20 states and 3 countries. And all glory to God. It's nothing, I was trying to do it on my own power in the beginning.
Yes.
And he had to humble me, because the biggest lesson I got out of it was that my identity is not being a successful realtor or what other people think of me and all this stuff. That's what I thought it was. Oh, what do you do? Who are you? Oh, I'm a successful realtor. Oh, hey, I'm a successful realtor. I do this. I'm the head golf coach, blah, blah, blah. It was about me. And God's like, no, that's not who you are.
Right.
That's what you do. I could strip that away and have you selling coffee in Nigeria. I could strip it away and have you cleaning toilets. It doesn't change that you're a child of God and heir to the throne, right? And I loved you so much, I sent your son for me, so that I could have a relationship with you, right? So whatever you're doing, you're going to do it to the fullest and do it to honor me, but it's not who you are.
Yes, yes.
And so that's the difference now. You had to strip everything, because I was stubborn. Persistence, a lot of times stubborn people are very persistent.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm just persistent in pursuing him.
I've been smiling the whole time, because before the foundation of the world, he knew you. Amen. He called you. Before Amen. He placed you in your amazing mother's womb, he knew you. Yep. And he had a plan. And you have a Joseph anointing on your life. Mm. So you went through a Joseph experience. You were successful. You were reared for success. Everything in you to be successful was there. So you had a Joseph experience, and then things caved in. Even before you realized that you were following that biblical walk, you were writing your vision down, like in Habakkuk 2:2, at age 18. Mm-hmm. And nothing and no one told you that, but you knew within you, the Spirit knew within you that you needed to do it down, because that was who you are, and you were scribing the life that was scribed for you. Amen. And then you started having all these things being stripped away from you and treated unjustly, just like Joseph, by a world that you trusted. Your mom and dad was in this world. You were honest in it, and you were good at it, and it started to turn on you, just like Joseph. But you never gave up on God. You continued to pray, and you never stopped moving forward. You never sat down and said, I'm over, I'm done. It's not in you. You continue to move forward, and God was giving you favor the whole time. Yeah. The whole time, the favor with the courts, the experience you suddenly had with the judge under coffee was what he needed to do so that the judge would know your character before he saw you. And you had favor. You had favor with God and favor with man. Amen. You were treated unjustly. And though you had to go through it, you didn't have to go to it. You didn't go to jail. You didn't even have to do the alternative that they suggested. But he went through to work on the humility. Because when we serve the Lord, it takes he'll take everything. Who do you love more? And you showed that it was him. And now he started to work on the life stuff, the humanity of you. He worked on humility, pride, ego. And there you were in working with SPCA, which is working with animals for those other countries. And he was cleaning up dung and
Mhm.
urine and
Every day.
stained beds, everything that no one else would want. But he did it, and he did it well, that he was able to even get a letter of recommendation from cleaning up dung. Who does that? And then God started to restore him because of his faithfulness. He continued to pray. He continued to worship. He continued to go to church. He never stopped moving. He continued to try to learn this and learn that because his character that was emerging is the character of Jesus. So the Lord started to restore now. He even sent him to another country. Why? Because that's what he's going to be doing, says the Lord. Country after country, and he sent him to one of the most difficult countries to go to for business, which is, and I love my spiritual children in Nigeria, but it's Nigeria.
Yeah.
But he sent them there, and they embraced him and they loved him because of the spirit of God that was in him. And he is a minister, and he's also a minister in the marketplace. God started to restore him. And he also restored his heart and gave him a wife that understands and knows love. And love was the best that she could give him. I remember him. I remember at that time. I remember even the name Tim, because you just talked when I was around you. You talked about your journey. And the Lord had me continue to go to you. Remember, you took me to the mountain and we oversaw land. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
You were saying, I want this land.
Eagles rest.
Ego rest.
Eagles rest.
Eagles rest. I need you to hear that. Eagle. Oh my
Eagle.
God. The Lord brings me eagles, general of generals, God's leaders that have that apostolic calling for his end time harvest. And I said, well, where is it? He said, well, I have to take it to you, but it's pretty far. And I looked and we are on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And you told me the name and you spoke over that mountain for what you wanted. And we walked it and I spoke over it. You don't remember that, do you?
Yeah.
And then I went to your church. I had to go see where you worshiped, what you were learning. And I went to your church. That's how I knew about Lexi, because you told me about her. I went to your church, and you were even going to take me to where that church was going to move. And before I got there, the Lord told me to get $300.
I was going to bring up the story. Yeah.
And he said, you sow it into my son.
Well, you were going to give it to another church. He said, prepare it for another church that you were going to visit later in the day.
And he arrested me.
And while we were together, yeah. Yep.
And I was perplexed because I don't have a poker face. So I know I went like that when he told me. And then I fumbled in my purse and I said, here. And he said, no, I can't take that. And you didn't have anything.
I was broke. The Lord was telling me again, do not ask her for money. Do not tell. Like I had to literally trust in the Lord to provide. I could not give signals or anything.
And you didn't.
Wow, it was tough.
And I went into my purse. It was all the way down the bottom. And I said, here, this is for you. And said, no, what? I can't take that. I said, you have to. You have to take it. The Lord told me to give it to you. And I was perplexed because, I'm transparent. I'm surprised because I was going to give it. I was going to go to, and he said, no, I can't take it. And I said, no. The Lord said to give it to you. 300, the number 30 times 100. 30 is when Jesus started his ministry. 100-fold return was coming on your life. And I had to sow that and place it into your hand. And look what the Lord has done. I'm like I'm blown away. And he is raising you to the top in excellence. You've been in excellence and professional the whole time. You never whined and complained about what was happening to you. You always had a smile regardless. Sometimes you would look so stressed in your face, but you never cursed God.
Yeah.
You never cursed God. And look where he's taking you. The best is yet to come. You're going to touch lives and hearts all over the world because of your story, what you've endured, the Joseph part, the Job part, where God is restoring. He said, okay, that's over. And he's restoring, he's restoring. And even Lexi's, because she's like, this man is always going because she's not you. But she watches you and her faith is growing because of you. And because of your faith and watching God come through, he said, you're going to the four corners of the earth. And as soon as the country opens up, you're going to be there. Not just because of the money and the wealth and the security, but because of your heart, and you represent Jesus, the King, in this land. And it's so beautiful to see. To think that he sent the prophet then, and I had to sow into you like oil over your head. And eagles? What the name of the mountain? You've got to be kidding me. Our God is so great.
Yeah.
This is the man that can be trusted. You've heard his life, you've heard his experiences. There's nothing and no place that you can come from that he does not understand and has been. And that's why the Lord has sent him and put him through it. And because of God's grace and what God has for you, no man can take from you and keep it. There's always a plan. I always said, we really don't lose anything. When things are taken away, it's just seed into our future. And he's a God of increase and multiplication, and he will multiply it all. He can show you the power of faith and the love of God, and how he can take you from the very bottom and raise you to the top and keep going. He knows the power of God. He knows the love of God. And he has a passion, and always has, for everyone to succeed. And that's his heart. So you will be blessed. He talks about eXp Realty. There are so many realties around there, companies that have real estate. But this is a man that does his homework. He doesn't do anything without training. He equips himself. And he joined that because everyone that's involved in that company has a right to revenue share. So we all have a right to grow from all the wealth that's being made across for all of us. This is what he's bringing into your life. This is what he's brought into my life. You have so much that you can learn from him. He's not a taker. He's a giver. And even though those of you that are in real estate have seen and know Mr. Matthew Stewart, he has gone to conferences. You have seen him. You've seen him on the billboards of properties that he has listed. But you need to know the story behind the man that made the man. God made the man, and his light is shining. And we are at the time of Isaiah 60, where it says, arise, for your light has come. This is a man that will stick with you through thick and thin, because he knows what it's like when people leave you in the thick of it and the thin. Matthew, oh my God, you have blessed me so much. I'm so glad I had an opportunity to reveal what the Lord has walked you through the whole time. And that master plan is not even done unfolding. Several years ago, 2 years ago, when the Lord, I was just walking and I had an open vision, and he said, get back into real estate. And I contacted you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh, makes sense. But even before then, you were sending me information on what you were doing and where you were at. So all the Lord did was tell me, now's the time, because he already showed me where to go. I am privileged to be a part of your team. not because of what you've accomplished, but because of who he is in you.
Amen.
How can people reach you to find out more about everything that you've discussed?
Well, if it's regarding real estate, say they're a realtor, right, and they have their license, they maybe want to look at, why you and I both chose EXP so fervently and so on. I'd say have them get in touch with you because I support you. And this is your podcast. And if they want to join EXP, they can name you as their sponsor. And of course, I'm your sponsor. So they get both of us, right? So that's probably the best way to go. If it's regarding real estate and, home selling or buying or something along those lines, again, I'd say have them call you, right? You and I will work together and help them do that. But if it's, I'm passionate about sharing the love of Christ. I was telling you a story about a young guy who's got his license. He's 21, was really discouraged last night. He's been in 5 months and I had already worked the whole day. I sometimes I'm on Zoom at 6 a.m. because they're East Coast 9 a.m. right. And I think, I usually work till 7 at night. Sometimes my wife's holding off on eating until we can eat together at 7. And she could just tell she didn't come in and bother me, like, hey, dinner, And I was on with this young man and he was just discouraged and thinking about quitting. And it wasn't about giving him real estate coaching as much as it was what's going on the inner man. Does he even know Christ? Does he have a personal relationship with Christ? So I just started peppering in different things of scripture and just the word and just talking about Jesus. And I could tell that I didn't think he really knew him intimately and personally. He probably heard of him like most. Oh yeah, I know. Even the demons know Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So, but he didn't know him. And so I spent, I don't know, probably, I didn't look at the time exactly. It was after 8 o'clock. I think it was 8:30 at night, talking on a Zoom with him and just walking him through the whole salvation. In fact, I shared this with you. This is what I'll cover his name for his own sake, but his name's up here. But, just drawing, there's the Grand Canyon and God on one side and him on the other and Jesus in the middle. Bridging is the bridge and his sacrifice and the cross and, and all that. So that fires me up more than anything. So, people want to reach out to me for that. Absolutely. So my phone number, 916-718-2979. Again, 916-718-2979. And my email would be my first name, last name. So Matthew Stewart Real Estate @gmail.com.
It's so important, saints of God, people of God, to contact on him. He is truly a disciple of Christ. Mm-hmm. And his journey was extensive so that he could speak on all walks of life and to encourage others and to give them hope. And now is that time that people need hope. I encourage you as his friend. I encourage you as someone that knows him and his character. And as a woman of God, I encourage you to contact him. He is truly an amazing speaker. The man has been talking a long time. He's an incredible disciple for Christ. As a matter of fact, Matthew, I'll say it for everyone here, within the next 6-7 weeks, we'll be doing a gathering, a workshop for the men, and it's just for the men. And I'm going to have 3 different speakers at 3 different age groups, and it's all for the men, about the men, so you can talk about anything and everything. And I would love so much for you to be one of those speakers, that man in the middle that you've always been, where men can just ask questions and talk about anything to men that love the Lord. And they say, well, brother, what do you think about that? And how should I handle this? And this is what's going on in my marriage. And because all men know is basically what they've been taught by sharing with their friends in high school. Will you be a part of that?
I would be honored. I didn't want to interrupt you, but yes, I would. Yeah, would love to.
Oh, thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And of course, more information with everyone as we finalize everything will come together to make sure. And if done in this Sacramento area, don't worry. We will stream it so that all will have an opportunity to join in, and also later on do a Zoom where those who could not come because they don't live there can still be in that platform with these three amazing men. Mom's not going to be there. It's all about the men.
I love it. Such a great idea.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being a part of What's Your Story and sharing the stories you have, for being so transparent. For those that you've given them hope. You've encouraged me to continue in my walk, because I didn't think about any of that until you were going through your story. This is the best is still yet to come for you, Matthew.
I received that.
Because of your heart. Because of your heart. Because it's all about the heart. The love of God that is within us makes us we're just not able to do anything without sharing that love. Please contact him. Please contact him for ministry, for conversations, for speaking. You will be blessed. Thank you for sharing all the real estate stuff with me. I come well taught under this man. If you want to reach me in regards to real estate, my number is 916-320-5482. Once again, 916-320-5482. You can always reach me at the email, and it's info, INFO, at Dr. Beverly L, as in L, Swanson.com. Info at drbeverlylswanson.com. Share this broadcast. The best part about ministering isn't having a pulpit, it's being able to share. One click, likes, hearts, continues to keep it to the forefront, and it allows other people to be blessed. We ask you to share it on your platforms, not for us. It's never about us, but it's for who we represent. So that he could be seen in an earth realm that needs so much hope, and it needs his light. The man has blessed us all, including me. If you want to share your story, don't forget. You can contact me by DM here or YouTube or any of the other platforms, or you can send me an email at ewaministries@gmail.com. EWA Ministries, that's Eagle Wings Apostolic Ministries, @gmail.com. We want to hear your story as well. We love you, don't we, Matthew?
Absolutely. Love people.
We love you. Oh, and a special hello to my sister back there, Lexi. We love you. You were not here, but you were definitely here and a part of it. You know, this man is not going to go without mentioning his beautiful wife. Lexi, we love you. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week again on What's Your Story. Blessings for now. Bye-bye.